are at a time where there's always opportunity whenever there's diversity. And it just depends on the way you look at your life and the way that you look at your future and your goals. So many times we have the things that have happened to us handcuff us on moving forward. And the purpose of my show is to help people in a lot of different arenas, but specifically on health. And one of the things that, Michael and I were talking about for particular names would be your body, your health, or your health, your choice.
Your health, your choice.
And I would love to get some feedback from you. You can always contact me at info@mccollumwellness.com. I've been a chiropractor in Santa Cruz for 35 years.
More than that, though.
Well, I've been a patient for a long time.
You know what? You were a teacher also, because you led a class in which I participated in.
Yeah,
And it was a class basically on autophagy.
exactly.
And which is one of the most incredible experiences I've had, is going into autophagy and the changes wrought upon my body because of that. As a matter of fact, one of the side products of going into autophagy in our class, what was the name of the class? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Cellular healing lifestyle.
Okay, that's a complicated name.
Yeah.
Boy, I lost 13 watermelons
Wow.
in
That's it.
that class.
How much is a
Which
watermelon
I
weigh?
think that's about 37 pounds.
Wow, that's amazing.
And furthermore, for the most part, I kept it off.
Yeah,
And I'll tell you, nothing changes your life like losing 13 watermelons. Carrying around 13 watermelons is a chore. And thanks to you and the class, being with other people at the same time really made a big difference. So I'm really happy to see you on The Voice, because I know the changes you have brought into my life, or allowed me to bring them into my life, because it's my choice, right?
exactly.
And so thank you for coming aboard, and everybody pay him a mind, and your health, your choice.
Yeah, thank you.
Make it happen.
Exactly. And, we're at a pivotal time in health in this country. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. We're at a very pivotal time because our country is the most unhealthy country in the industrialized world. You probably know that by now. And if you don't, understand that there's 39 countries healthier than us. Michael was talking about losing 13 watermelons in our 7-week class, which is not atypical for what we do when we start to change the food that we give our body. Our body likes certain food, and it gets addicted to certain foods that aren't really good for it. So we're gonna, kind of go into that. But since Michael started talking about, being overweight, we want to understand that right now the United States is the most obese country in the world. And something like 25% of our children are obese, 50% of the adults are obese. And the problem with this, other than just, maybe being self-conscious or not about it, is it is inflammatory, it creates an inflammatory effect in your body. And one reason that you hold on to that weight is because the body can't burn fuel correctly. So just like your car, if you put fuel in your car, be it propane, or excuse me, gasoline, or if you have an electric car, either way, but if you put gas in your car and it's not running well, it's going to choke and sputter, and it's going to smoke and rattle, and it's not going to run well. Well, your body works the same way. It is an internal combustion engine. You have 75 trillion cells in your body. Each one of those is an internal combustion engine. It's interesting because we think we're hungry, we get some stomach pangs, and we crave certain foods, and we run to the cabinet or to the store or what have you, and then we consume that stuff that we think we're craving. And then you may or may not regret it later. But I want to really kind of get an understanding of who's craving that food. It's not necessarily the brain in your head, it could be the brain in your gut. because we have 100 trillion microbiome, 100 trillion bugs in our gut that are craving the food. They digest everything we eat. And if we're not eating healthy food, then the good microbiome that would normally be there, like to grab those good, healthy carbohydrates and proteins and fats, they start to get overrun by these very bad toxic microbiome that only crave sugars and different things like that. And the problem with that is that when they're burning or when they're breaking down the foodstuffs we put down our gullet, the byproduct is very fast burning glucose. And that's kind of like, if you burn newspaper in your fireplace, it turns to fuel or heat very quickly, but it goes up in smoke. And then it leaves you cold again. Well, the same thing when you're eating unhealthy foods, that gets in your body and it burns really quickly and then it's gone. And there's certain types of foods that you can eat that you go, yeah, I love it, but I'm hungry an hour later. So the trick to handling that, I'll go into a minute, but I want to say that when you burn fuel that burns quickly and smoky, it creates inflammation in the body. So any foods that are what we call simple carbohydrates, like breads and potatoes, white potatoes, corns, chips, grains, cereals, those all burn like wet pine in your fireplace. They burn smoky. They're hard to burn some kinds because they're wet, and they might get you some fuel. But if you can breathe all the smoke that they're putting out and stand being in the same room with that smoky fireplace, you might get warm. It's much better when you have a clean burning flame like a gas stove. It's like a blue clean flame that you don't need a chimney over necessarily because there is very little byproducts. So one of the reasons we are so inflamed is because of those foods we're eating. So we want to teach our body how to start to eat foods that burn clean. And this is very important because guess what? Chronic inflammation, which means you are overweight, your digestive system isn't working well, it's not burning fuel correctly, so it's storing it on your body. The process of that inflammation is getting up into your brain and causing a major amount of the memory dementia conditions that we have today. So if you love your brain and you want to protect your brain, and right now, if you're over 50, you actually have a 50% chance of contracting Alzheimer's disease and definitely other kinds of dementia, let alone things like Parkinson's and all those other diseases that are debilitating when in your golden years. Peripheral neuropathy is a huge problem that we see in this area everywhere around our country and probably the world. But since the United States is the sickest country in the industrialized world, our peripheral neuropathy is much higher. Now, we do a lot of peripheral neuropathy handling at our office. This is something we're doing a workshop in mid-May, at a lunch workshop at McCollum Family Chiropractic. I'm in Capitola, right by where Bed Bath and Beyond used to be. There's FedEx, and we're right there. I've been there for about 15 years. Been in Santa Cruz practicing since the earthquake. It's when I started. And 35 years of practice has taught me a lot about people. It's taught me a lot about what I can do to help people become healthier. And it's very interesting. I'm going to tell you a story on the other side of a break here in a couple minutes about my best friend who's been a ER doctor up in the Bay Area for 30 years. And we get together periodically. We got together this weekend, and it's a really interesting story about, me being a chiropractor and him being a medical doctor and us knowing each other since we were 4 and 5, and how our paths have gone separate ways, but both in the medical profession. And finally, this weekend, I actually was able to figure out where we were butting heads. And once I came up with this realization, we looked at it and went, that's it. This is exactly the difference between keeping yourself healthy and preventing disease versus wait to see what happens and then handle the emergency. So the other side of the break, I'll go into that with a little more detail. But the inflammation in the brain is related to inflammation in the gut. When you have your digestive system not working well, then you're going to have health problems. So our gut, is right there. Put your finger in your belly button and draw a circle around that for about 6 inches all the way around, and you've found your gut. So that is your large intestine, your small intestine, part of the stomach is in there. Your kidneys are in there. Your pancreas is there, your gallbladder there, and your appendix and your spleen. So all of these organs are in there. Many of them are digestive organs. Many of them are detoxification organs. They're all in that arena that's called the vitals. Above that is the vitals, which are heart and lungs. Then you have something called the diaphragm that your lungs sit on. The diaphragm separates your vitals from your vitals. The vitals are down below and the vitals are top. But when you have inflammation of the digestive system, you get something called leaky gut or intestinal permeability. And leaky gut basically is the holes between the single cells in your large intestine. As your intestines get swollen, those spaces open up, allowing these toxins out of your large intestine, which isn't filled with good stuff. And it allows big particles to get out of the intestines that should be leaving and getting into the bloodstream and then around your cells. And this is what, just imagine rubbing dirt in a cut that you have. It's not going to heal well. So when you have these toxins inside and around those 75 trillion cells, you end up with a lot of problems. So we're about to go to a commercial break. Appreciate you being here. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum. This is my first show on Santa Cruz Voice, and I'm so glad to be here every Wednesday from 3 to 4 o'clock. And I'll see you on the other side of the break. Okay, we're back. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum coming to you from the Santa Cruz Voice, and this is my first radio show here. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm talking about your health and what you can do to make sure that you don't have the problems of aging caused by inflammation. We know that chronic inflammation is the number one cause of chronic disease. In fact, I was at a brain seminar with a bunch of neurologists a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, And we were talking about inflammation on the brain, and there's only 600 of these particularly trained doctors in the country. So when they talk, I listen. And they were talking about using lasers on the brain for one, which is incredible. But they were talking about the problem with inflammation, the problem with digestive disorders, and the byproduct of that is something called leaky gut, and how this actually is creating so much disease in our body. In fact, Dr. Trevor Berry, the neurologist there, was saying that 15 out of 16 are leading causes of death. So 15 out of 16 of the leading causes of death in our country are related to inflammation. So if we realize if we're inflamed, that's going to lead us down the path of dis-ease, then perhaps it would pay attention to listening to how to reduce or eliminate inflammation in your body. And that's what this radio show is about. We want to help you learn, the factors that are causing chronic inflammation in your body. We want to make that old jalopy car running down the street with smoke coming out of the hood and steam coming out of there and rattling with fenders and smoke coming out of the back. We want to get that running nice and smooth and clean and energetic. And that's what we want to help you with your body to do. So again, Dr. Duncan McCollum, you can always email me info@mccollumwellness.com or call my office, McCollum Family Chiropractic, 831-320-6586. Excuse me, that's my cell, 831-459-9990 in Capitola. And we never charge to sit down and talk to anybody about their health. So you can always call for complimentary consultation. Before the end of the hour, or the commercial, I was talking about peripheral neuropathy, which is something that comes on very quietly. It's something that you don't think is there, and then all of a sudden it's there, and then it just won't go away. And it starts to steal your freedom, steal your life. And this is something that we specialize in. A lot of people have been told you can't do anything for peripheral neuropathy. And we found that there's lots of ways we can turn it around, and we've been doing it pretty routinely for over a year now. When you have the right tools, you can do it. And one of the things for sure is you've got to look for the upstream cause of what caused this peripheral neuropathy in the first place. It can be anything from injuries, structural injuries, accidents, falls, slips, chronic position, like being in a dentist chair, or sitting at a desk all the time. They say sitting is the new smoking. It can be from exposure to chemicals. Right now we have 250 billion tons of toxins dumped on the planet every year, and our body can't eliminate them as well as it should. And basically, the number one organ in your body, called the liver, the detox organ, that's supposed to filter your blood 4 times a minute and pull all the toxins out of it. Not only the ones that are your cells, your 75 trillion cells put out as they're creating energy, because just like your car, when it creates energy, it has exhaust. When your cells are burning fuel, which is either glucose or ketones, which is fat, it also has exhaust. It has to get out of the body. And if that can't get out of not just the cell, but into the bloodstream to get eliminated and reduced by the liver, and then in some cases the kidneys, and then out of the body, it's going to sit in there and rot your body. It's going to cause inflammation. And again, 15 out of 16 leading causes of death in our country is inflammation related. And I would venture to say even the 16th cause of death is inflammation related, because it's accidents. So, how many people they're unhealthy, they've got brain fog, their coordination isn't so good, and then because of that, they have an accident. So you could almost say 16 out of 16 of the leading causes of death in our country are caused by inflammation. But they say 15 out of 16. So we'll stick with that. Anyway, I was starting to tell you about my best friend, Bill. And we've known each other since we were 4 and 5. Him and his twin brother, Andy, crashed my birthday party. Didn't know who those bald-headed kids were, but they gave me a a kickball, which, kind of was okay. But all of a sudden they had competition with all the girls that used to chase me around. I wasn't the only one in town now. That was kind of a bummer, but I've forgiven them. At any rate, so Bill he was in the military. He was in the Air Force, a medical doctor in the Air Force. He did 17 tours. He's been to every horrendous country that you could imagine at wartime and treated the, injured soldiers and civilians. And then he worked as an ER doc for many years up in the Bay Area. And every time we'd go out fishing or on a trip together throughout the 64 years I've known him, um, well, once I went into chiropractic and he went into medicine, that was about 35, 40 years ago that we started going those ways. We'd have talks on our trip up to the snow or up to the fishing stream or what have you, where I would talk to him about, the functions of cellular detox and, brain health and um, things like all these things like leaky gut syndrome and heavy metal toxicity and glyphosate and he'd kind of look at me, several years ago before this was very well known, and he'd go, that's all nonsense. That's, bodies, you just have to wait. Medicine's the way to go. So this has gone on for years, and I would tell him a lot of the stuff that I did, and he'd pick one thing I said and go off on it in a great way because he was very learned, and he'd talk about all the chemistry and the product byproducts and this and that, and it was pretty great to have him tell me all that stuff. But he still wasn't getting what I do, which is keep people from getting sick. We help the body heal itself by eliminating toxins so the body can do what it does best, and that's heal. So, you have the best, greatest physician who ever lived lives right inside of you. That's called your innate intelligence. So it isn't the best ER doc or the best chiropractor, not that I profess to be that or build the best ER doc, but we know what to do. We know how to handle our public. We know who we can help and who we can't help, and just today I'm going to be doing the last talk on a 30-day challenge we did right after the show. And, quoting Hippocrates, who said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And even some of the greats way back when said, our bodies know how to heal. You just got to treat them right. Rest and fasting is the best medicine, as Thomas Edison. So, at any rate, Bill and I were talking on this trip. We just walked up to the top of Mount Carmel on Saturday. I'm still sore as heck from it because it was Mount Carmel is 4,417 feet. And, we started at about 1,800, went down to about 1,000, then all the way up, and then back down, and even back down lower than that. So it was about a 7, 8 mile hike with a 5,000 um, foot elevation change when you go up and down. And as we're going up and, pontificating about this or that, I was talking to him about our stem cell machine, our TRT machine, our tissue regenerative therapy machine, which you may know about. That's a stem cell machine. It's a true lithotripsy machine that came from Germany. And I had the first one in the Bay Area, actually, probably in all of Northern California. There were only 200 in the country when I got mine, but I'd used it on him. I'd used it on his low back, his Achilles tendons along the time. And it's basically a sound machine that the sound comes out at 3,358 miles an hour and penetrates the skin and disrupts scar tissue and brings your own stem cells to the area. This is part of our peripheral neuropathy treatment. And so I was talking to him, and he asked if we ever worked on things like joint replacements, like hip replacements or knees or shoulders. And I said, yeah, absolutely, we do. Even the spine, when you've got a low disc in your lower back or what have you, metal. And I said, because oftentimes there's inflammation around where titanium is driven into bone. It doesn't mesh well, and it can create a low-grade inflammation. And I made the mistake of saying or infection. And he goes, no, that's ridiculous. If you had infection, it would turn into septicemia, and it's a major emergency. And there we go again. And there are hidden infections in the body that don't go all the way into septicemia because they're encapsulated. They're well contained within the body, and they just are spitting out what we call mycotoxins, and those mycotoxins cause people to be sick. They can cause things like fibromyalgia or um, polymyelitis rheumatica, which just mean these are named diseases. Most diseases are named after the conditions that they mimic. So, don't be afraid of a diagnosis. It's just describing your symptoms. So anyway, we were going on, and I mentioned some fluid retention, and he goes, "Oh, you mean ascites? Have you seen ascites?" And I go, "Yeah, I have. That's when the belly gets really big with fluid." And he goes, "Yeah, when we see that, we have to take all of that fluid out of the abdomen, and it's, could be volumes, and then we have to make sure that the cells are getting the water that they need in there." And I'm sitting there listening to him, and it finally dawned on me the difference about what he does and I do, because absolutely what he's doing is saving lives. But and to a degree we are too, and I believe we are. But the difference is that he sees them at the end of the cycle when they have to go into emergency, and everything else you've waited too long. It's like a wait and see philosophy. A lot of Western medicine is wait and see. When you're proactive about your health, and a lot of people are, they're very concerned. They see what's going on in the world of health, and they want to take their health into their own hands. That's why the show's being so far called Your Health, Your Choice. That was by Michael Olson's recommendation, and I'm open to names. We also have some recommendations of um, make your body healthy again, which is what we're really trying to do. But this is what we're teaching. This is what my show is going to be about. It's going to be giving you some helpful hints and tips and things that you can do to try to make your body healthy. Now, I've written several books. My latest is a second edition of Turn Back Your Biological Clock. And Turn Back Your Biological Clock. It's in a story mode to make it easier to read, but it does go through all of everything you need to do to turn back, blood sugar problems and chronic inflammation causing chronic disease. It's laid out there in a very readable, fun way. You can find it on Amazon if you want. Dr. Duncan McCollum, Turn Back Your Biological Clock. And but a lot of this we practice here in town. We have an amazing staff, and anybody that's a patient will tell you that. Some of the things that we have now, chiropractic is absolutely what saved my life. I broke my back when I was 12, falling out of a tree on Tightwad Hill in Berkeley, but it went undiagnosed because it was in 1968, and little kids were supposed to be seen and not heard. So it wasn't an unstable fracture, but it was a compression crush fracture of my fifth lumbar. I ended up being on a lot of drugs. My doctors it said, "Oh, it's growing pains," and gave me medicine, but it wasn't. I knew it wasn't. They weren't telling me the right thing, and so the pain never really went away. I medicated it, which affected my learning ability quite a bit. And then the turning point was when my older brother had passed away earlier, and that pretty much destroyed my mother. And so she ended up contracting ovarian cancer, which is a type of cancer you really can't diagnose till the symptoms show up. It's a slow growing insidious cancer, but this was in the late 60s. She died on January 1st, 1973. But she used to use baby powder all over her body. And I mean, all over her body. And now we know that that is a cause of ovarian cancer, or a contributor to it, let alone the grief from my brother passing away. But the thing I wanted to mention is we knew the doctors because they were all in our same neighborhood. And so one day I visited the doctor early on of my mother's condition, with her, and it was a particular oncologist that I played with as kids. And we were in the room, and they'd been to our house for my parents' cocktail parties and all that kind of stuff. And I was looking at this particular doctor, waiting to see the sage-wise solution to my mother's problem. And I was about 14, and I could see in his eyes a gaze that looked right through my mother and right through me and focused on nothing. And even at that young age, I realized that they didn't know how to help her. They couldn't help her. And so her demise was gradual and, pretty dramatic, to see somebody fade away like that. And so with her passing and me being medicated with painkillers, but nobody ever took an x-ray on my spine and told me what was wrong. I had moved down to Santa Cruz and ended up having a serious injury to my back. And I was on flat on my back for 3 weeks when three friends or two friends came and got me, put me in my own pickup and drove me to a chiropractor about a block and a half from where I am here, right here on Dakota Street, Dr. Anthony York. They carried me in. And Dr. York, I was scared to death because I didn't know about chiropractors. Dr. York looked at me and asked me what happened. I said I hurt my back doing something stupid, and I was probably on pain meds and alcohol because I was a kid, 20 years old. He asked the two friends of mine, and I don't remember their name. I wish I did. I'd thank them because it changed the course of my life. You never know how far what a small act of kindness might go. And these guys carried me and they held me up to the Bucky as Dr. York took an x-ray of my back. And then he disappeared into a dark room. And it sounded like Dr. Jekyll in there, all kinds of noise and splashing and buckets. And if I could have moved, I would have gone out of there. I would have crawled out on with my fingertips, but I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand. The only saving grace was his wife, Patricia, who was this beautiful Midwest woman who looked like Snow White and spoke with those mannerisms. And she calmed me down. Finally, Dr. York came out, put a x-ray on a view box and pointed to it and said, "When did you break your back?" He pointed to my low back and he said, "Look at that thing, it's crushed." And I could clearly see that that bone was crushed. And I basically started to cry because nobody had ever taken the time or cared enough to take me someplace to get what I needed done, which is an x-ray in my back so they could figure out why I'd had to take all these drugs for all those years. So by the time I was able to get off the drugs, I was addicted to to not the pharmaceutical, but the street drugs I got in Berkeley, but I checked out. And one day, one evening at 3 in the morning, I was in what I had as a music room. And I'm gonna take a short break here, and then I'll come back in just a minute and finish that story. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum, McCollum Family Chiropractic. Info at McCollum Family Chiropractic, 831-459-9990. I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, this is Dr. Duncan McCollum. I'm back. This is my first radio show here on Santa Cruz Voice. I'm going to be here on Mondays from 3 to 4 talking to you about what you can do to be healthier. How do you get your health back? So I'm happy to be here. I was talking about before the break about what happened when I broke my back, and it went undiagnosed, and I became pretty much addicted to medications, which ruined my those years of my life because I was introvert. I'd never learned to read, as I'd already had dyslexia. But when two people carried me into a chiropractor's office, basically against my will, and Dr. York took an x-ray of my back, put it up on the machine, and asked when I broke it, my whole world changed. And then he said, I think I can help you. I'm going to give you your first chiropractic adjustment. But if for some reason this doesn't work, I want these two young men to take you to Dominican Hospital because you have so much pressure on your large intestine that I'm concerned that it may become a pretty serious health problem. I hadn't gone to the bathroom in a couple of days. So I didn't know what else to do. I was kind of scared of life, of death, of everything. So Dr. York put me on a table, put one leg over the other, jumped on my back. There was a loud pop. And then I jumped up with fear, about ready to belt him. And I realized that I was standing up for the first time in 3 days or 3 weeks. Blew my mind. I stepped back. I was still in pain, but I could stand on my own power, which was much better than I walked in the door. And I asked him what he did, and he started to explain to me what happens with 31 spinal nerves come out of your back from your brain. They split and go to 75 trillion cells. And if you have pressure on one of those nerves, wherever those nerves go, things aren't going to work right. So, being kind of a dumb 20-year-old, it took me quite a while to figure it out. I kept hurting myself and going back until he finally said, you know what? Let's just fix this thing once and for all. And I'd had it with pain. I didn't think I could live without pain. But every time I went there, I felt better. So I decided, okay, what do I need to do? So he put me on what his version of corrective chiropractic care was. It's like going to a gym. You get enough adjustments to make a difference. You work a muscle long enough to get it strong. Along the way, he kept talking to me about chiropractic and then convinced me to become a chiropractor. Well, it took me another couple years to even consider going to school because I had a hard time reading. I finally did. I finally graduated about a week before the earthquake, the Loma Prieta earthquake, and I've been going ever since, helping people as much as I can. But one thing I learned is at this point, with the amount of toxins in the world, the heavy metals, molds, they come 4 generations down through your mom's umbilical blood into your body. They get into your liver, your kidneys, your brain. They're causing all kinds of dementia problems, as well as turning on bad genes. So you can get genetic disorders coming on. The chiropractors back in the 1800s, it was discovered in 1895, and the early 1900s, they would adjust your spine and your body would get well. And it was a little bit different then. Now we have so many other things attributing to that inflammation in the body that it's harder to get well. Back in the day, you lived in an area that wasn't very toxic. You go get adjusted, the organs were okay, and they got well. Right now, we have this leaky gut syndrome or intestinal permeability from the amount of processed foods we've eaten, the medication we've been on, the drugs that we've taken, both commercial and pharmaceutical and street drugs, the alcohol we drink, the processed food we eat, the glyphosate, the forever chemicals. This stuff is built up in our system and it's destroying our health. That's why we're rated 50th in the world for health. So this is why there's a big movement to get the toxins out of our food, to get the additives out of our food. I'm just finishing up a 30-day challenge at my office. Today's the last day. I'm going to do the last Zoom call with the group tonight. We will be doing others. But if you're interested in finding out more about what I do, Dr. Duncan McCollum, McCollum Family Chiropractic, you can email me at info@mccollumwellness.com or McCollum Family Chiropractic, either one, info at McCollum Family Chiropractic or info at McCollum Wellness. Both of them will get you to my staff. You can call for a consultation. If you're suffering from peripheral neuropathy, realize there is hope and there is we've helped a lot of people, and I certainly hope we can help you. We will be doing another complimentary workshop. I think it's on the 15th or something of this month. You'll have to call my office to reserve a seat, 831-459-9990. If you've got joint pain that just won't go away, scar tissue that is unrelenting, the stem cell machine, the tissue regenerative therapy machine we've had since I think it was somewhere around 2018 or 19. I was the first one to have it in Northern California, and it's an amazing machine. You have a $49 special that you can try it. Um, our goal is to just help everybody move forward in our town. And we do a lot of stuff online. So if you have friends out of the area and they want to do one of our classes or learn how they can get on one of our challenges, please tell them to contact our office. And again, Dr. Duncan McCollum, I appreciate being here. I really appreciate everybody at Santa Cruz Voice, Michael Olson for encouraging me to come on. It's my pleasure to see what I can do to help people become healthier and give you some of the information I know. So I was talking a little bit earlier about my friend Bill. He's a 30-year emergency room doc up in the Bay Area. And believe me, this guy's seen everything, including 17 tours with the Air Force in some of the worst battle zones you can imagine. And he knows how to fix people. And we've had an ongoing, I've known him since he was 4 and I was 5. We've had an ongoing dialogue whenever we get together to go hiking or fishing or something. And, I'll talk about what we do to help people get healthy. And then he'll go, nah, that doesn't work, because you need this, this, and this, and basically he's right about what he's talking about and what I'm right about what I'm talking about. We realized this weekend after 35 years of him being a medical doctor and me a chiropractor. We see people on different ends of the spectrum, different ends of the rainbow. Being an emergency room doc, he sees the emergencies, the people that have gone all the way up to the last minute to get anything done for their health. And of course, there's the accidents and injuries and all that mixed in with that, and the poisonings and such. But the chronic disease that develops over time that destroys the heart, destroys the brain, chronic inflammation is causing 50% of us to get Alzheimer's disease. Anybody over 50 has a 50% chance of getting that. Cancers, number 2 cause of death in the country. Heart disease, all caused by inflammation, colon cancer, leaky gut gone wrong. All these conditions, diabetes, we're 50% of us are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Thyroid disease, 30 million Americans are diagnosed with thyroid disease. What's with all this disease? What's causing it? Well, as I mentioned early in the show, I was at a brain seminar with some neurologists this last week and a half ago, and they were saying that functional neurologists, there are not very many. There's a bunch of them that will study stuff, but not so many that will actually do stuff for what they find. And this particular guy was saying, that 15 out of 16 of the leading causes of death are related or due to chronic inflammation, chronic swelling. It's chronic swelling in the arteries going to your heart, coming out of your heart, chronic swelling in the arteries in the brain, in your limbs, in your feet. That chronic inflammation stops blood from getting all the way to your toes. And when you don't have oxygen in your toes, they're going to start to die. You lose oxygen to your brain. What's that? It's called a stroke. You lose oxygen to your heart, of course, a heart attack. You lose oxygen to your toes or hands. That's called a neuropathy because the nerves are going to die. Nothing lives without oxygen and nutrients in your body. So the way that we help our body become healthier and stay healthy is make sure that the delivery system's working. That's from the brain down through those 31 spinal nerves that go to the 75 trillion cells. They have to work well. That's a chiropractor's job. We reduce miscommunication in the body in the form of subluxations. That's a bone that's slightly out of place, putting pressure on the nerve, stopping it from functioning correctly. Now, the same thing goes with chemical subluxations, which is disturbances in the body where chemistry isn't working well, like the hormone system or the digestive system or the circulatory system. These all need to work based on the communication from your body to your brain. So your brain can figure out what to do, and then the brain sends a signal from the brain back down to the body to fix it. We have an amazing system in our body. We have 14 systems, in fact. One of these days I'll go over several different ones, but the power that made the body can heal the body, no doubt about it. I mean, what did we do before Western medicine was here? Well, there was homeopathy. In fact, in 1913, 160 or 180 homeopathy colleges were closed down by a reporter, Dr. or Mr. Fletchner. He put out a report saying that homeopathy was quackery and that allopathic medicine was the only way to go. And anything else with the powers of money that be made it very difficult for us, for homeopaths to practice. Allopathic medicine funded by large oil companies became the medicine of the day. So are we better off since then? If we were better off, we'd be the healthiest country in the world. But I beg to tell you that we're rated 48th, 49th in the world for health. So there's something ain't right here. You know, we're 50%, we use 50% of the drugs made in the world, and we're rated 47th or 48th, depending on what article you look at. And we're only 4 to 5% of the population. So in your right mind, if you're 4% of the world population and you take 50% of the drugs and you're still rated 50th in the world for health, is this a workable system? Maybe, depends on what side of the buck you're on. But I would think if we had really good medicine, and we have great emergency medicine here. I ruptured my appendix in 2021. I would have been dead if it wasn't, if I didn't get raced to the hospital here in town and they, you know, cleaned me up, sewed me up, and kept me there for 5 days. I wouldn't even be here. Western medicine for emergencies was great. But the rest of it, out of the $4.7 trillion spent on medicine last year, 4.7 trillion, 70% of that went to managing symptoms or managing disease. So that's over $3 trillion of our healthcare is on managing disease. Sure, it gives a lot of people jobs, but is it really helping the people that they're serving? I wonder. I wonder what you think about that. Um, my name is Dr. Duncan McCollum. You can come into my office and talk to me about peripheral neuropathy. We're going to have a workshop coming up, I think the 15th of March, the Ides of March. Beware the Ides of March. It's time to figure out how to be healthier. So call the office, 831-459-9990. Please tell me that or tell my staff you heard me on this radio show because it's new. This is my first show. I'll be here every Monday, 3 to 4. And I really love being on the air. I'm going to bring on some really amazing guests for you to listen to and hopefully get some information from. You can email me, info@mccollumwellness.com with any questions and we'll get back to you. You can come to the workshop. It's free, the peripheral neuropathy workshop. It's going to be an hour-long lunchtime, I think, on the 15th of March. One of those days, you're gonna have to ask my staff. Also, if you just want to try our stem cell machine, give us a call, 831-459-9990. You do a consultation with me, take an x-ray if it looks like I should, and then we will do one of our stem wave treatments, a soft wave tissue regenerative therapy treatment on you, and have you come back the next day or so and go over what happened and see if it's right for you. See if we can help you become more mobile. The people that come into my office, oftentimes we're the last stop. They've exhausted everything before they come in. Please don't wait that long. You're much better off coming in early and letting us figure out what we can do to help you early. So I'd love to have you in. Anything that we can do to help you. We never charge to sit down and talk to you about your health condition. And all you have to do is call 831-459-9990. Isn't that a song? All you have to do is call out my name, McCollum Chiropractic, 831-459-9990. Here's Michael Olson coming back in. And Michael, it's been really fun.
Did you have a good time?
Well, I did. I hope that we had some listeners out there.
Well, good. It's more fun when when you put your hands on them, though, Dr. D.
Yeah, well, I love doing that. And
Yeah.
you know, we do that. We're
So put
busy.
your voice on them and
Yeah.
then put your hands on them and make them
Yeah,
find their way to health and happiness here.
absolutely. Love and happiness. That's
So
what
first show, first solo flight.
Yeah.
There you go. Easy peasy.
It's very fun. I really like it. It's a great location, very comfortable place to
Next
be.
week, I understand Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah, Robert will be with me, my good buddy.
Great, can't wait.
I have met Bobby Kennedy and I've been in some closed room discussions with him.
Good.
Pretty amazing guy. So I'm just hoping to help him in reducing the condition, the terrible health condition we're in our country. So anyway, it's been really fun to be here.
You have your signing off song?
I don't have it up because I haven't figured out how to do that. I was trying to do it and talk at the same time, but I can't chew gum and talk at the same time. So
Tapping your head,
Yeah.
rubbing your belly. Yeah, okay.
I was hoping you'd sing something for me. Maybe
Okay.
not.
Well, yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
Dr. D, Dr. Duncan McCollum.
Thank you so much.
Get healthy out there, give him a ring, and see you next week. The same time, same bad channel.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, now, what do?
I
Hit the
put
white square.
stopped.
Okay. Stop recording, yes. Okay, now go up here, click on this, and it'll download to your thumb
Oh,
drive.
I don't have a thumb drive.
Oh,
I forgot that.
but you've recorded this.
I've recorded it here. Yeah, that's
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Cool. Then what you want to do is log out
Sign
of
it.
here, go right up here to this green thing, I think it is.
Okay.
Maybe not. No, oh, this is the music. Just X out of there. Now, when you want to sign out, you go up to this little green thing, log out.
Okay.
There you go. You're out.
Just minimize that.
You just go ahead and X out. Good.
Cool.
All right. I'll
All
go
right.
back to my Zoomer.
We did it. Thank you so much.
You bet.
So you're gonna get me sometime my own login and
Yes, as soon as you get your name.
okay, and then this show will be put into my pod, it's in your name right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get it all moved over
Yes.
eventually. Oops, I better finish
So when
this.
you get your name, let me know and we'll get you all set up. with
Thank
all of
you.
your stuff.
Good, when I get my name, okay.
All right.
Name
So-
first.
We'll get you even a fob, so you can get in and out, everything.
Thank you so much.
All right, Dr. D.
I'll just gather all my stuff and get out of here.
Yeah, when you close the door behind you, you're locked out.
Okay, I won't forget this
All
time.
right.